Trump's former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, and I both wrote books about the White House's current residents this year. Mine is called The Great Gas Bag. I'm guessing his is a bit more flattering. So here to try to give us a different perspective on the 45th president is the author of Let Trump Be Trump, Corey Lewandowski.
Thank you.
Am I right?
It's great to be here, thank you. And I hope yours was #1. I'm hoping mine gets #1 with your help, so thank you very much.
All right. So now Trump has officially endorsed Roy Moore. Mitch McConnell has now come out and said that the RNC is behind Roy Moore, and they're throwing money behind it. Put your money where your mouth is, the money's going there. So the optics are going to be a little hairy for the Republican Party in the next couple of years, don't you think? Because everybody who gives money to the RNC is going to be tainted, possibly, that you're supporting an accused child molester.
Well, look, let's just be clear. I think we have a big problem in Washington, D.C. right now. We've seen very powerful people, from Al Franken to John Conyers, some of the most powerful Democrats in the country, being accused of things, and some admitting to them, and some and paying off people through taxpayer money.
Right.
We have a real culture of problem in Washington, D.C. And what the voters have to decide is, who are they going to send to Washington to represent them and their values? That's the most important thing. And look, we've seen Al Franken now come out and apologize. I think John Conyers just said today he's resigning from Congress because of these accusations.
Yeah.
These are very, very serious accusations. People, if they've committed crimes, should be prosecuted for those crimes. But I'm very cautious about rushing to judgment until we know all the facts. Now, when you admit that you've done something wrong, and Al has done that and made an apology, it's going to be up to the voters of Minnesota to determine if he should be the right person.
It means if you don't admit it, that you should be exonerated?
No, but there's a fine line, I think, between being accused of something and actually being convicted of it. Unfortunately, this is the society we're in right now. We've seen a lot of prominent people in the media, in major network television news,
and they all look
women, though. Are we
absolutely no. This is no. We shouldn't disbelieve anybody. But the question is, what is the punishment by being accused and being convicted? They're two different things. Al Franken has now admitted he's groped women. We have the pictures.
Let's talk about Roy Moore.
Roy Moore. Let's talk about Roy Moore.
Yeah.
It's going to be up to the people of Alabama to decide if those are the values that they want to put in the U.S. Senate. It's not for me to decide. I'm a resident of the state of New Hampshire.
But Mitch McConnell didn't say that in the first place. In the first place, he said, no, we're not endorsing him. He should get out. Now he's saying it's okay. So where does he stand morally?
It's not up to Mitch. It's up to the people of Alabama to decide, do we want a person who's going to go to the U.S. Senate to support conservative values as it relates to the fiscal issues, or do we not? Do we want a person who's going to support stopping illegal immigrants coming into the country or not? That's up to them to decide. Just like it will be up to the voters of Minnesota when Al Franken gets reelected and they put those pictures of him groping women all over the country.
It's a false equivalency, don't you think?
No,
one is about children and the other is about
adults. If my family was groped by Al Franken when they were asleep, I'd be very appalled by it.
If your 14-year-old daughter was molested by Roy Moore, you'd be upset about that, too.
Let me tell you something. I'm the kind of guy. Absolutely right.
Can I jump in really quick, though? Part of why Trump won is the distrust of the media, like the innate misunderstanding, I think, of Trump voters. 71% of polled Alabama voters don't believe the media's take on the Roy Moore accusers. What is it that the media continues to get so wrong about President Trump and gets so wrong about covering his supporters?
Well, look, here's what we saw just this week. An ABC News reporter made up a story and was penalized for it.
He didn't make it up. It was a mistake.
No, there's a difference between making a mistake and factually having... You're a reporter who is a national television reporter and getting the facts wrong and going out and saying something that's wholly and factually inaccurate, and the accountability. Look, if it was just a mistake, ABC News wouldn't have suspended him for 4 weeks. They would have said, everybody makes mistakes. They would have said, everybody makes mistakes.
Well, that was a big mistake.
It's a huge mistake.
And he's being held accountable for it, right?
Well, he should be fired for it, is what he should have been. Because what you've done is, you've taken the stock market in that one day, you dropped 350 points, because what he said was that Donald Trump told Michael Flynn to go and do something, which was never the case. And so, look, I'm glad Mr. Ross is being held accountable.
Wrong, Corey.
Well, look,
come on.
There's no evidence that Donald Trump ever told Mike Flynn to do anything. Well, so to say that as a factual basis on a major television network, I think is a gross injustice of journalistic integrity.
He did plead guilty to lying to the FBI, right?
Right. And Mike Flynn,
his conversations with Russia.
If Mike Flynn, which he did, committed a felony by lying to the FBI, Mike Flynn has to be accountable for that, as anybody else should. But look,
well, let's talk about Mike Flynn's plea deal then.
Let's do that.
Because Flynn was one of Trump's most vocal supporters and a constant fixture on the campaign trail. He was national security advisor, and now he's a key witness for Mueller. Let's be frank here. How worried should Trump be?
Look, I think if you look at what has taken place under the Mueller investigation so far, we've seen almost $10 million of taxpayer money has gone to this so far, which is perfectly fine if there's a crime there that leads somewhere. But nothing has gone to the president that says he's done anything wrong. There's been no collusion, there's no cooperation, there's no coordination. If Mike Flynn is guilty...
just wasting his time?
Look, I think Mike Flynn should make sure that no foreign government ever interferes in the election of our great country, because if that's the case and anybody is involved in that, I hope they are prosecuted and spend the rest of their lives in jail.
Yeah, we kind of know that it's happened.
And you said this repeatedly. You said recently, anyone who colluded with Russia should go to jail for the rest of their lives. So if it is found that Trump colluded, should that be his fate?
Should he go to jail too?
Nobody's above the law. But
so
let's be clear.
Is that a yes?
Look. I know the president so well. I had the privilege. Look,
don't throw
Joy,
open your mouth a little bit.
Yes?
I had the privilege.
You guys are laughing, but he worked on a... I mean, listen, let me just finish really quick. You're not answering. The thing we've been talking about all week is, like, what is it that we're missing about Trump supporters? What is it that we don't understand? You worked for his campaign. Granted, you're not working in the administration, which I'd be angry that I wasn't if I were you. But what is it that the media is missing about his supporters? Because I think it's interesting to know your perspective.
Do you know how I got... It's really interesting. You know how I got to meet Mr. Trump? I was introduced by a friend of mine, Dave Bossie, and he met Donald Trump because his son was a young boy. He had 4 brain surgeries and 2 heart surgeries, and David was trying to raise money for Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. And he knew Steve Wynn, the great Steve Wynn from Las Vegas, and Steve said, I'm going to introduce you to this guy, Donald Trump, and he's going to help you. Didn't do it with fanfare, didn't do it for anything other than to save this boy's life. The boy's now a 14-year-old, and he's done amazing things because Donald Trump helped him. And Dave Bossie said to me, I want to introduce you to Donald Trump, and he might run for president. Would you go and sit with him?
Yeah.
Because of the gratitude that Donald Trump has given and the graciousness of the man that I knew.
Yes.
That's what his
But that's not
people
how you
know.
wait about it in your book, Corey.
No,
because in your book,
what I say is he's tough. He's a killer.
Okay.
Well, I want a killer as a president.
You do?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I want to make sure that we are the toughest, greatest nation in the world, and that we are safe.
Listen, you write that he was ruthless to his staffers. You write that there was a side of him so bad that, quote, it makes you wonder why you took the job with him in the first place. You were his target on many occasions.
I was. You know why? Because I failed. Because
what was the thing he did to you exactly?
Look, when this is a man who has achieved such amazing success in his life, whether it's New York real estate, books, television, and now in politics.
Trump University, don't forget that.
Well, look, I think he did pretty well. But you have to remember, he deserves perfection. He demands it. He wants you to work harder than you've ever worked. And look, I grew up in a blue-collar town of Lowell, Massachusetts. I grew up poor like so many others in a single-parent household. I know what hard work is. I thought I did till I came to work every day. It was a 19-hour-a-day job, 7 days a week, and I'm thankful for that opportunity. Did I fail?
But you can be a gracious leader without screaming and yelling at people,
But you know what?
right?
I wanted to work hard. I wanted to be perfect. And look, there are many times I failed him, and many times that I wanted to do better. But I'm grateful for the opportunity.
I've got to ask you this question because when I heard you say this, when I saw you wrote this, it was incredible to me. On day 1 of his campaign, Trump came down that golden escalator and he called Mexicans rapists who bring drugs and crime to America. You wrote in your book that those words were as close to the opposite of racism as any words could be. Please, Corey, explain that to me.
You have to remember the rest of the quote.
Please explain that to me.
What's the rest of the quote?
He also said, some I assume are a few, they're good people.
Oh, yeah.
But,
True or bomb.
But listen, here's the thing. I know President Trump. Not only is he not a racist or misogynist, he's the exact opposite. Because you know what? Look, I've had the privilege of sitting next to him. And he doesn't care if you're white, green, blue, or orange. He doesn't care if you're a male or a female.
So when he says those words, we shouldn't believe him.
No, what he said was, look, what he says is, look, this week we had a terrible tragedy of justice, in my opinion. Kate Steinle's killer. The man who killed her in cold blood was let off because of an injustice justice system. He'd been deported 6 times from this country, and this poor girl died. A beautiful young girl in California was shot and killed. And you know what? It doesn't matter if you're white or black, green or orange. Justice should have been brought to her
Okay, but you know what? Anecdotal evidence is not policy and is not what we're talking about here. That is anecdotal. That's one incident. No, policy is not based on an anecdote, Corey. Anyway, we have to go. I'm sorry. Thanks to Corey Lewandowski. His new book, Let Trump Be Trump. The Inside Story. And I'll send you mine, too.